The battle for Pokrovsk has grown increasingly dire, or Ukrainian forces as Russian drone campaigns systematically dismantle critical supply routes, isolating frontline units and hampering logistical resupply. In a coordinated escalation, Russia launched one of its largest aerial assaults to date, unleashing 405 drones and 28 missiles across Kyiv, Odesa, Chernihiv, Sumy, and other major cities in a single overnight operation. The strikes killed at least 6 civilians and injured dozens more, with widespread damage reported to residential buildings, schools, synagogues, and emergency infrastructures. Entire neighborhoods were left without power or water, as double-tap tactics where secondary strikes targets first responder and repair crew complicated recovery efforts. Ukrainian authorities confirmed that the attack deliberately focused on energy and port facilities, aiming to cripple the country's ability to export grains and maintain electricity ahead of winters, with over 100,000 people experiencing blackout and critical fuel reserves under threat. He faced a looming humanitarian and economic crisis that could undermine both civilian morale and military readiness in the coming months. In response to these mounting pressure, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has pursued an aggressive strategy to modernize and expand Kyiv's air defense and strike capabilities. A landmark agreement with Sweden now paves the way for the delivery of up to 150 Gripen E fighter jets, a deal valued at approximately $12 billion and described as the largest fighter export order in Swedish history. Signed during a high-level meeting in Linköping between Zelensky and Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson, the pact includes provisions for local maintenance, pilot training, and potential co-production, with Kyiv aiming to deploy the advanced aircraft within 3 years. The jets, comparable in capability to the recently introduced American F-16s, are expected to significantly enhance Ukraine's ability to contest Russian air superiority and conduct precision strikes deep behind enemy lines. Financing discussions reportedly involve the use of frozen Russian assets held in European financial institutions, a mechanism that, if realized, could transform seized Kremlin wealth into a direct instrument of Ukrainian defense. This bold move signals not only Sweden's deepening commitment to Kyiv, but also a broader NATO-backed effort to recalibrate the balance of power in Eastern Europe's skies. Public sentiment within Ukraine continues to evolve under the strain of prolonged conflict and martial law. Recent polling indicates that nearly 90% of Ukrainian citizens believe they should retain the right to openly criticize President Zelensky, despite wartime restrictions on civil liberties. This growing frustration reflects broader discontent with perceived censorships, limited transparency in military decision-making, and the extension of emergency powers that curtail democratic norms. While Zelensky remains broadly popular for his leadership during the invasion, the emergence of vocal domestic dissent underscores the challenge of sustaining national unity over time. Meanwhile, on the diplomatic front, Zelensky has intensified his appeal to Western allies, rejecting any notion of territorial concessions and insisting that peace can only be achieved on fair and lasting terms. During a series of meetings in Brussels, he secured renewed commitments from EU leaders, including a pledge from Portugal's Prime Minister Antonio Costa to support military procurement through 2027. Zelensky also highlighted the strategic importance of long-range weapons, arguing that Putin fears their deployment and that European hesitations only prolong the war. His message was clear: sustain Western unity, accelerate arms delivery, and the innovative use of Russian financial assets are essential to altering the war's trajectory. Beyond Europe, Zelensky has also sought to clarify the role of global powers, particularly China, in the conflict. Speaking at a Brussels briefing, he asserted that Beijing is not invested in either Ukraine's victory or Russia's defeat, but instead prioritizes its own strategic autonomy and economic interests, while acknowledging limited dialogue with Chinese President Xi Jinping and past assurance that China would not supply lethal aid to Moscow. Zelensky expressed skepticism, noting that Beijing's continued purchase of Russian oil and its diplomatic shielding of the Kremlin effectively constitute indirect support for the war efforts. He warned that China neutrality serves to embolden Moscow and complicate Western's effort to isolate Russia economically and politically. As global attention turns to the upcoming APEC summit in South Korea, where Trump and Xi are expected to negotiate a trade agreement that could include discussions on Russian energy flows, Zelensky's remarks underscore the high stakes of great power diplomacy for Ukraine's survival. With winter approaching, energy infrastructure in ruins, and battlefield dynamics shifting, Kyiv's ability to withstand the next phase of Russian aggression will depend as much on international solidarity as on its own military resilience. If you have made it this far, congratulations, you have unlocked the truth. I want to ask you a quick question though. Given Ukraine's growing public dissent against wartime restrictions and President Zelensky's push for advanced weaponry like Gripen jets and Tomahawk missiles amidst escalating Russian attacks, do you think increased Western military aid can ultimately defeat Russia? And why? Join the debate. We want to hear your insightful opinion on where this is all heading in our community. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Like the video, hit the notification bell, and most importantly, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.